The room was full of light, cameras flashing, laughter floating over crystal glasses. And then it happened. I don't know you. For words. Calm. Clear. Ice cold. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. Not shouted. Not whispered. Delivered with the kind of certainty that makes a room stop breathing. Picture this for a second. Hollywood's most exclusive night. A place where everyone knows everyone, or at least pretends to. Where proximity equals power, and recognition is currency. And in the middle of it all, Emma Stone turns, looks directly at a woman beside her, and says she doesn't know her. That woman, according to multiple eyewitness accounts circulating online, was Meghan Markle. No raised voice. No dramatic gesture. Just a boundary drawn so sharply it cut through the noise of the entire venue. Ask yourself this. When was the last time someone was publicly denied existence at an A-list award show? Because this wasn't a snub. It wasn't awkward small talk gone wrong. And it definitely wasn't accidental. The shock didn't come from what was said. It came from where it was said. And who was listening? Phones were already out. They always are. But in that moment, even the people filming didn't know what they were capturing yet. They just knew something had shifted. Faces tightened. Smiles froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Why does this story matter now? Because this wasn't just a celebrity misunderstanding. It was a visible crack in Hollywood's unspoken rules. The kind of moment the industry tries desperately to keep behind closed doors. Where discomfort is managed quietly. Where exits happen discreetly. Where reputations are protected at all costs. Except this time, none of that happened. Instead, what allegedly followed was security stepping in. Not rushing. Not panicking. Just moving with purpose. As if a decision had already been made long before the words were spoken. Here's the part that should make you uneasy. People close to the situation claim this wasn't the first uncomfortable interaction. That this moment had been building. Slowly. Repeatedly. Across events. Across spaces where coincidence starts to feel like something else. And if that's true, then this wasn't a spontaneous reaction. It was a breaking point. So why that night? Why that room? Why then? Was there a warning earlier that went ignored? Was there a private moment that crossed an invisible line? Or was this the instant Hollywood decided to stop being polite and start being honest? Because what Emma allegedly said next wasn't meant for the cameras at all. And once those words left her mouth, there was no going back. It crept in. One laugh cut short. A glass paused halfway to someone's lips. A smile that didn't quite recover. That's how people in the room later described it. Like the air itself realized something was wrong before anyone else did. And then everyone understood why. Because when Emma Stone said, "I don't know you," she didn't say it confused. She didn't say it nervously. She said it the way people do when they are correcting a mistake that should never have been made in the first place. Let that sink in. Hollywood runs on polite lies. On half recognition. On fake familiarity. People nod. People smile. People pretend. That's the deal. So when someone refuses to play along, it isn't just awkward, it's disruptive. Witnesses say Meghan froze. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just a second too still. The kind of pause you make when you realize the script you thought you were in has suddenly changed, and no one bothered to tell you. Several people nearby later claimed they heard Meghan try to respond. A quick explanation. A name drop. Something to re-anchor herself in the moment. But it didn't land. Whatever she said didn't change the energy. Emma didn't lean in. Didn't soften. Didn't rescue the interaction. Instead, she did something far more telling. She turned slightly away. That's when the room really started watching. Because turning away in that setting isn't rudeness. It's instruction. It's a signal that says, this conversation is over, and it shouldn't continue. Ask yourself this. How many times have you seen that happen on camera at an award show? Almost never. And here's where the contradiction hits hard. Meghan Markle is not someone people fail to recognize. Not accidentally. Not casually. Which means, if Emma truly didn't know her, that says one thing. But if she did know her and chose to say that anyway, that says something else entirely. People closest to the interaction say Emma's expression didn't change. No anger. No panic. Just resolve. The kind that comes after patience has already been used up. And then came the movement. Not fast. Not chaotic. Two members of security, already positioned nearby, shifted their weight. Hands moved subtly. Earpieces adjusted. It wasn't reactionary. It looked rehearsed. which raises the question no one in that room wanted to ask out loud. How long had this been anticipated? Because security doesn't step in unless they've been told to. And they don't get told to unless something has already happened behind the scenes. Something that made this moment inevitable. And just before security closed the distance, Emma reportedly said one more sentence. Not to Meghan, but to the people meant to handle situations exactly like this. What she said next didn't echo across the room, but it changed everything that followed. It always starts with a question people ignore. What are the odds? What are the odds of running into the same person again and again in spaces where access is tightly controlled? Not public streets, not random restaurants, but invitation-only rooms, private receptions, back hallways where schedules don't overlap unless someone makes them. At first, it feels flattering, coincidental, harmless, until it doesn't. According to multiple accounts circulating among industry insiders, this moment at the awards wasn't the beginning of the story. It was the end of a very quiet build-up that had been happening for months. Here's what makes this uncomfortable. People close to Emma Stone say she is famously private. Not guarded in a dramatic way, just careful. She keeps a small circle. She avoids unnecessary exposure. She doesn't linger where she doesn't feel comfortable. And when something feels off, she removes herself early. Except this time, removal wasn't working. There were allegedly earlier encounters. Brief, polite, easy to dismiss. A shared room here. A nearby seat there. A conversation that went on just a little too long. At first, no one thought much of it. Hollywood is small. Everyone overlaps. But then the pattern started to form. Same events. Same timing. Same presence. Always close enough to notice. Never close enough to confront. Ask yourself this. How many coincidences does it take before your instincts start speaking louder than your manners? Insiders claim Emma began adjusting her movements. Arriving later. Leaving earlier. Changing where she stood during events. And still, the overlap continued. This is where the tone shifts. Because the accounts say Emma wasn't rude. She wasn't confrontational. She didn't escalate. She did what most people do when they sense discomfort but don't want drama. She minimized. Short replies. Neutral expressions. Polite distance. But distance only works if both people respect it. And according to whispers behind the scenes, that wasn't happening. The contradiction here is striking. Meghan Markle is someone who understands optics, who understands boundaries when it comes to press, image, and control. Which makes the alleged persistence even harder to explain. Was it admiration? Networking? Misread signals? Or something more unsettling? That's the question no one wanted to ask out loud. Because calling something off in Hollywood is risky. Misinterpretation can become scandal. Silence feels safer. So people wait. They hope the situation resolves itself. Until it doesn't. Sources say there was a moment earlier that night. Not public. Not filmed. A quiet exchange where someone close to Emma reportedly intervened. A warning delivered softly. A suggestion to give space. And here's the part that changes everything. That warning, according to those same sources, was ignored. Which means when Emma spoke those 4 words later, I don't know you. It wasn't confusion. It was clarity. And clarity only arrives after patience has already been exhausted. Because by the time security starts watching instead of mingling, the decision has already been made. And security was watching. Security never rushes unless there's danger. And that's what made this moment so unsettling. Because when they moved, it wasn't chaotic. It wasn't loud. It was calm, deliberate, almost practiced. The kind of movement that tells you this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was protocol finally being activated. People in the room said they noticed it before they understood it. A subtle shift. 2 figures stepping closer. Not to make a scene. To prevent one. Ask yourself this. How many times have you watched an awards show and seen someone quietly escorted out? Exactly. It doesn't happen unless something has already gone wrong behind the scenes. Witnesses say the approach was respectful. Low voices. A hand gesture indicating direction, not force. The kind of removal designed to minimize attention. But the irony is, at an event built entirely on attention, even the smallest deviation becomes impossible to ignore. Heads turned. Conversations stopped pretending to continue. And here's the part no one was prepared for. Meghan reportedly didn't resist. No shouting. No dramatic protest. Just confusion written across her face, followed by something far more damaging in Hollywood than anger. Disbelief. Because disbelief suggests you thought you belonged. And in that moment, the room seemed to answer without saying a word. No one intervened. No one stepped forward to smooth things over. No friendly producer. No powerful ally laughing it off and pulling her back into the circle. Silence can be cruel like that. And the silence wasn't accidental. People close to the situation later claimed this wasn't about embarrassment. It was about boundaries being enforced in the only language Hollywood truly respects: access. Titles don't matter there. Past headlines don't matter. Even fame doesn't always matter. What matters is whether the room wants you in it. And that night, the room had decided. As she was guided away from the main floor, sources say the reactions were telling. Some guests looked away, pretending not to see. Others watched openly, curiosity outweighing courtesy. A few checked their phones, already anticipating the headlines that hadn't been written yet. That's how fast reputations move now. One moment you're inside the frame. The next, you're content. Here's the contradiction that keeps coming up. If this was truly nothing, why did no one stop it? If this was a misunderstanding, why didn't anyone laugh it off? If this was unfair, why did the machinery of the event move so smoothly? Because systems don't act decisively unless they've been primed to. And according to insiders, the most damaging part wasn't the escort itself. It was what happened minutes later. Because while Meghan was being led away quietly, the story was already escaping the room. Texts, photos, whispers turning into posts. A narrative forming before anyone could control it. And once that narrative took hold, it didn't ask for permission. What came next didn't just follow her out of the venue. It followed her everywhere. By the time the doors closed behind her, the story was already alive. Not written yet, not polished, but breathing. Phones vibrated in pockets. Screens lit up under tables. A few people weren't even pretending to watch the stage anymore. They were watching their group chats. Because in rooms like that, news doesn't travel outward first. It circulates inward. Someone sent a message, then another, a photo without context, a sentence without names. And suddenly everyone was asking the same thing in different words. Did you see that? What just happened? Was that real? Here's the part most people don't understand about moments like this. The internet doesn't wait for facts. It waits for friction. And this had it. Glamour colliding with rejection. Status meeting resistance. A woman used to attention suddenly denied it. Within minutes, the first posts started appearing. Vague at first. Something wild just happened at the awards. Then sharper. Security escort. Then the phrase that hooked everyone. I don't know you. That line spread faster than any explanation could catch up. Ask yourself this. Why did those words resonate so hard? Because they struck at identity. At belonging. At the one thing celebrity culture is built on, recognition. And once the phrase detached from the room and entered the timeline, it stopped being about what actually happened and started becoming about what people believed it meant. Some framed it as empowerment. A woman setting a boundary in a space that rarely allows it. Others framed it as humiliation, a public stripping of relevance. And then there were those who asked the question no one wanted trending. Why would security already be prepared? That's where the speculation exploded. Old clips resurfaced. Past photos were reinterpreted. Innocent overlaps were suddenly framed as patterns. Commentators slowed footage down, analyzed body language, filled silence with certainty. Contradictions piled up fast. If this was a misunderstanding, why did it escalate so cleanly? If this was exaggerated, why didn't anyone immediately deny it? If nothing inappropriate happened, why did no one step forward to correct the narrative? Because silence, again, spoke louder than statements. What followed was a familiar cycle. Headlines sharpened. Anonymous sources appeared. Some defended. Some attacked. Most just watched, fascinated by the speed at which a public image can fracture. And through it all, there was no official clarification. No neat explanation. No press-friendly version of events to restore balance. That absence mattered. Because in Hollywood, when something truly isn't a story, it's shut down immediately. Fast. Firm. Clean. This wasn't. Instead, the night ended with questions hanging in the air and a single moment replaying endlessly on screens around the world. A moment that refused to be softened or forgotten. And while everyone argued over what it meant, one detail kept getting lost in the noise. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the point of no return. Because once a room closes its doors, the aftermath doesn't stay inside. It spills. And what surfaced next wasn't just commentary. It was a deeper fracture that had been forming long before that night, waiting for the right moment to show itself. And that moment had finally arrived.